Hi. So what we're going to talk about in this video is we're going to start looking at trigonometry. Maybe you've heard that word before. It's all to do with angles and triangles. And so hopefully you can see I've got three triangles drawn up here. This is just going to be a sort of introductory video explaining some of the words and terminology that we might come across in future dealings of this subject. Because it is a separate subject, trigonometry is considered a sub-branch of mathematics like algebra and geometry. So it's very, very important, okay? And it's all to do with the three sides of a triangle when it's right-angled, and we need to know names of these sides. We already know one of them. We know what is called the hypotenuse, okay? Maybe you remember that from Pythagoras, where the hypotenuse is always the longest side, which is also the side opposite the 90-degree angle. So we need to have names for the other two sides, and they're interchangeable depending on one thing, and it depends on where we're considering and what angle we're talking about, okay? So depending on what angle you're dealing with, one of the other two from the 90-degree angle, you're going to have different naming of the sides, okay? The two sides in a right angle triangle, other than the hypotenuse, are called the opposite and the adjacent, okay? So if you think about what those words actually mean, opposite means ahead of, in front of you, adjacent would mean next to you, and that's how we can remember what sides we're dealing with. So let's take opposite, and it's always related to the specific angle that we're dealing with, which in this case I've written in red as x degrees, okay? So we take the x and we look for the side opposite it. So for this specific triangle, that's the opposite. And then for this final triangle, and that leaves us with one remaining side. The adjacent side, I could have started with this after the hypotenuse. The adjacent means next to it, so it means the side that is next to the angle, but that is not the hypotenuse. And then what we can do from these, because all I've just done is name some triangles right now, is we can get three formulas, okay? One is called the sine, one is called the cosine, and one is called the tangent of the angle, okay? So it's going to be called sine x, cosine x, and tan x. So I'm going to deal with those three triangles. And these are essentially just ratios of two of the sides of a triangle, okay? Sine x is a ratio of the opposite over the hypotenuse of a triangle. Cosine x, the cosine of an angle, is the ratio of the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent of an angle is a ratio of the opposite over the adjacent. And so that's quite wordy. So sometimes what we do is we condense it into shorter words so that we can remember it better. So we shorten sin x to just be sin, cosine to just be cos, and tangent to just be tan, so that we can just express it better and more efficiently. And so we've got sin x equals the opposite over the hypotenuse, cos x equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and tan x equals the opposite over the adjacent. We could further simplify that as the mnemonic to help us remember these. And if you look at the first letters of each thing that we're dealing with, we can get a mnemonic, which sometimes helps people and some other people don't like it. So I'll show you anyway. So the mnemonic for learning right-angled trigonometry is so, ca, toa. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, cos equals adjacent over hypotenuse, tan equals opposite over adjacent. It's just a mnemonic to help us learn this, okay? So that's really just an introductory video on what trigonometry really is, which is the ratio of two sides of a right-angled triangle, giving all these values, whether it's sine of an angle, cosine of an angle, or tangent of an angle. From this, what we can do is calculate the length of a side of a triangle, or it can calculate the angle of a triangle. But that's going to be coming in the next couple of videos, okay? So this is really challenging. Watch this video a couple of times if you need to, and then have a go at some of the later videos, okay? So katoa, or right angle triangle trigonometry.